Afternoon, everybody. How are things? I see by our non-existent clock that it is 2 p.m., so I will thereby call the meeting to order. If everybody would like to join me in standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be good. Except for Charlie, you can stay seated if you want to. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. What do you think of the new glasses? Yay, nay, just kind of
Looking good.
You think?
Oh, yes.
The lady that sold them to me says they look sharp, but of course, you know, she would say that. Anyway, very, very different from anything I've ever had before. Danae, would you mind letting us know who's here?
In attendance today, we have Carl Flanagan.
Here.
Mark Klingel.
Here.
George McDonald.
Here.
Keith Polius.
Got it.
Charles Carr.
Here.
And Chairman Heiko Kaltenbach.
I'm here. Thank you very much. We're all here except for Mr.
Louise.
Michaels. So we have a quorum. I think it'll work then. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from last month's meeting? Anybody have any questions? If not, may I have a motion to approve last month's minutes? So moved. Charlie?
Second.
Second, thank you very much. Discussion?
Who did we have as the mover?
Charlie?
Okay, thank you.
No discussion. You ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last month's minutes are approved. Do we have any members of the public that would like to say anything at this time?
There's Andy.
Hello everyone, Andy Chan, Right Rudder Aviation at the Inverness Airport. A couple things since last meeting. One, we did have the EAA chapter fly-in. Of course, we at Right Rudder hosts the event, but it was put on by the EAA chapter members. Incredibly successful fly-in, even taking the weather into consideration. I don't have the official counts, but probably around 25 aircraft flew in, and quite a number, I don't know, probably at least 100 people showed up for the event. It was primarily a fundraiser for the chapter. And they had a fundraising goal of $3,000 to provide a scholarship to someone in the community who's a youth individual, and they raised approximately half of that in one fly-in. So they were very happy with that fundraising effort, and there will be additional fly-ins in the future to be published, in addition to Young Eagles events. And when those Young Eagle events occur, we'll be sure to let you know, because we would like as much participation from the community as possible. Or I should say the EAA chapter would. We have, since we last spoke, of course, we've been operating the Mesa Airlines program that you guys are aware of, Mesa Pilot Development Program. We now have 10 aircraft that we operate on their behalf, day in and day out. About 40 cadets in the county that are, again, from out of town and come and spend their dollars here in our community. So those of you who have been to the airport, come to the airport, you'll see cadets coming and going. And so we're very excited to get the parking lot, which is another topic. Very excited to get that open officially because everyone's been parking in the grass for quite a while now. We're rocking and rolling in terms of fuel sales and everything like that. I mentioned that we did get a contract with Florida Fish and Wildlife and Florida Highway Patrol. They were at our facility today and visited. Very excited to have us on board their network. So that's another neat line of business that is moving forward.
Andy, can I ask what kind of contract you have, what services you provide?
Maintenance on fixed wing aircraft
Really?
For the Florida Fish and Wildlife and Florida Highway Patrol fleets.
Excellent.
We declined rotorcraft because that's not our expertise. So primarily piston, single and multi aircraft maintenance. Cool. We already are an existing fuel vendor for primarily the airboats at this point in time, but they will start to purchase aircraft fuel from us as well.
Do they plan on basing any aircraft at Inverness?
That's our ultimate goal we're working on. They have presently facilities that are in existence, and at the moment they don't need to move, so that's the potential for the future, but not at this point in time in the short term. If we had hangars that were available, that might change their mind. Because they have expressed that some of their current locations, the rent payments are a little higher than they would like them to be. So along the same lines with the state, we still excited about the two grants for the 147 school, and we will be sending in our letters of recommendation for the approval of those grants, and then visiting the acting secretary of the DEO probably sometime next month to follow up on those grants.
Right.
Yeah. Any questions about what's going on in there? Oh, one other thing. There was a storm that rolled through the airport, just a random storm. As you guys may recall, there was a metro liner that was disassembled at our airport and on the ramp there.
The storm solved that problem, I
That
take
storm
it.
knocked it down, so we are in the process of cutting it up to remove the aircraft from its location. So just an update on that. So that's so you'll see the wings have been cut off, and we'll be cutting the fuselage into different components to haul off to the scrapyard. Although we will be keeping some sections of that for the 147 school, so that they can do structures repairs on a real airframe that poses no danger to the public.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Hello, my name is Ricky Rawls, and I'm here about I lease a hangar in Crystal River, and I got this long speech here, so just be short. The question is, what's the difference between a hangar and a storage area? It's the big door, and if you don't have that big door lifting up, you don't have a hangar anymore. The county put in our lease that we had to repair that door. Okay, and the problem is that 14 of it's only one section right now. The first hangars, row of hangars they built is about 10 years old, 11 years old. And that row of hangars, 14 of the 20 hangars, piston rams failed. So when mine's failed, I took it down and had it repaired, and found out that the seals were dry rotten. So all these things, this is 14 of the 20 rams that fell, which is about 70% failure rate, occurred within a year and a half. Okay? And the problem with this is that a guy just rented a hangar about 5 months ago, and guess what happened to him? His ram went out. He had to replace it. Now, when you rent something, you should be in good shape. You shouldn't have to be paying. One of the doctors that had his repaired, it cost him $2,000 to repair 2 of them. And he didn't get any assistance from the county, so he got the builder who built the hangars, and they came from the East Coast and repaired his. Mine's, I had to, if you don't know what these rams are, they're about 10 feet in the air, and they push the door open. They're about 150 pounds. And a lot of us have repaired them on ourselves, but one of the things I'm trying to bring attention to is, we don't have insurance on us to do work like that. You know, pull this hangar down and take it and be repaired. Now, one thing about this, one of the rams failed, almost crushed the plane. But the guy was lucky, he got it back in the hangar before it fell. Okay? So, after you have a 70% failure rate and the county's not going to do anything about that, they're setting yourself up for either somebody getting hurt, somebody's plane getting crushed because it failed. Just to say that they're responsible, there's no maintenance done on these rams or anything like that. So I'm trying to bring it to the county's attention. I've already talked to the county guy who's over it, and the first thing when I mentioned this to him, he said, we're gonna have to increase your rent. And the problem with that is that in the last 5 years, my rent has gone up 65%. And you tied the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, to rent increase. And my rent in December went to 9%. And if anybody knows anything, the CPI is not 9% nationally or in the state of Florida. So I'm trying to figure out where this 9% increase came from. And finally got told that this increase came from Tampa and St. Pete. We're not a metropolis here, we're Crystal River, and at the last meeting they had for aviation, they talked about that. You know, we can't compete. I mean, what I'm saying is, you got the veterans coming down here, I can't compete with the people that work down in St. Pete and Tampa, because I worked here for 40 years. And I didn't make the money they did. All right. So they're pricing us out of our place. You know, I'm a good old hometown guy. All right, let's see what else. One other thing I was trying to get, and it seems like it falls on deaf ears, is that we have one of the highest amount that we pay for our hangars here. And if you include all the little things in it, we pay $19 to have a COI, which is an insurance company to call us and tell us we need to pay our insurance or check on our insurance. Our electric bill, we used to pay $15 just to be connected to, electricity. Now, the state, I don't know if y'all know about this, Duke Energy and some of the states, power companies have a flat fee now. It's the $15 plus a user fee for electricity up to $38. Now I'm paying $38 for electricity I never got to use. And I'm being taxed on it as well. I made a recommendation to Citrus County manager that, hey, a lot of airports, the hangars don't pay for electricity. All they have to do is put a jumper in, remove all the meters, put a jumper in, and we will pay y'all the $15 rather than paying Duke Energy for stuff that we're not going to use. And if we use too much, then you can go up on electric, still compensate for what we use. But all these things start to add up. And I'm a retiree, and I'm just trying to, hey, why? And most important is, why are we doing this to our people? Okay, and the last thing I'd like to talk about is it's kind of hard to find the Aviation Board here on the internet. Your numbers are not there. The only way I can got in contact was to apply. Well, not you. Apply for a job. So that's the only phone number that you will find in there where you can easily, find that you can contact this board. And because I went through about a week talking to the operator, and they couldn't find. Only person they wanted to send me to was the person I've been talking to all along, and I did not want to converse with that one individual anymore because nothing's happening. Okay. So in closing, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Todd, what do we know about the county leases? Has the cost of leasing a hangar gone up 65% in the last, how many years?
5 years.
In the last
Yeah.
5 years?
Well, I also lease a hangar from the county, and it has gone up very significantly, and I've kind of questioned whether or not the CPI index, which is in the lease, which we signed, is actually being followed and is correct. And I think when I first got my hangar, it was about $360 a month or something, and I'm up close to $450 something right now. And and I know that everybody else is dealing with something very similar. So I take note that you've researched it and talked to somebody and found out we're not using a national CPI, we're using something out of Tampa, and that we probably need to look closer at that and see if that's actually legit and consistent with the language and wording of the lease. I'm gonna go look at my lease when I get home see exactly how that's worded myself. The issue of the hangar doors, yeah, I know there's been some trouble over in Crystal River. There's been some issues over in Inverness, and I've kind of questioned myself as to why, if the hangar blows down or the door falls off, the county takes care of it. But if the mechanism that opens and closes the door that makes the hangar usable, if that fails, I have to repair that. And I don't particularly understand why that was done. And it would be nice if we, perhaps for next meeting, if we can get an indication back from the people that developed that policy. I'm not sure who did it. I assume it came out of engineering, as to why that was done. And if we could look at some possibilities for maybe doing something to alleviate that burden. I mean, it's one thing if a repair costs $150 or $500 or something, if it costs $2,000 to replace that thing that raises and lowers the door, that, why are we renting the hangar? You know what I mean? So, but in terms of where we go from here, yeah, I'd like to kind of ask you, if I may, to look into the language of the lease, and in particular, how the CPI is actually used, whether it's national, whether it's supposed to be local, or whether in fact we're using something out of Tampa, which we probably shouldn't be doing. So that's one issue. And then the second issue, I'd like a little more information, is to why the hangar lift mechanisms are specifically excluded from the lease. I mean, I don't own it, but I have to repair it if it breaks. That makes sense. So same thing with the gentleman here. So and there may very well be good sound reasons why they wanted to do it that way. They do break. I guess they last about 10 years, if that long. And either the cost of that's got to be figured into the cost of the rent, or something. So, but it is a burden, and it's something I think we ought to look at a little more closely, because it affects. We got a lot of people renting hangars, a lot of people wanting hangars, and it's stuff like that's kind of important to them. So.
Okay.
Anyway.
Obviously, to the extent that is what the lease says, when we sign the lease,
Yep.
we that's the burden we take on. That being said, I rent homes, and I certainly don't expect my tenants to pay to fix the garage door opener. That's something that I take on as the owner. So I agree that it would be good to understand exactly what does and does not fall to the lease owner, the aircraft owner to repair. And as far as the CPI goes, I agree that 65% over 5 years is way more than the price of milk went up at Publix. So
Eggs too.
then again, George, 360 to 450,
That was, it was 350 something. Now it's 450 something for
and
mine.
that's over 5 years.
That's over 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more point on the hangar door issue. I guess I would sign a lease that says I'm responsible for fixing the hangar door if I consciously did that. But however, I think the point is that, and I don't know, but 4 people that have hangars over there, and I know that all 4 of them have had to fix their doors. And that's in less than 2 or 3 years. So that particular part of it makes me kind of wonder whether the selection of the equipment was appropriate to start with.
And should it be used in the next set of hangars that gets built?
So I know, I was over there a couple weeks ago, and there's a great big puddle of oil on the floor, on the ground, and that's what had happened. The one side had the seals had blown out and dumped all the oil on the ground.
Oh, boy.
And
May I add one additional thing, is that I showed him the seals, and the seals crumbled and got sand because of dry rot. It's not, I mean, if it failed because of something I did, I have no problem fixing it. But when you have a 70% failure rate in a year and a half, and there's something basically wrong with something you're ready. Thank you.
Anybody else have any?
Mr. Rawls, just a couple of questions, and it's for clarification for me. The gentleman that you were talking with that did not seem to provide you any initially.
Okay. That was,
Initially, but that gentleman or woman, whoever it was able to provide you with a telephone number for the Aviation Advisory Board?
Mr. Rawls, I'm sorry to interrupt, if you could come to the podium,
Okay.
because we can't pick up out there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Here's the deal. I got frustrated with he's replacing the guy,
Okay,
okay?
Okay.
Every time I go to and ask for something.
Right.
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth, right? I didn't get any
okay.
satisfaction. So I wanted to get anybody other than him.
Sure.
And I could not get anybody other than him. And the only thing they told me is come to the meeting today.
Exactly.
All right? But
Exactly.
there's no names listed if you go on it.
Right.
Or nothing, no number. At least if they had an email address that somebody could email and at least, and you call them back. That way you won't have to be changing anything all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I found it difficult, very difficult to contact somebody here.
Okay. All right.
Would you like me to speak to that?
Okay, yeah, so I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Obviously, number one is that when a person of the community comes and asks for information, and I would, obviously, I'm just making a wild guess here, is that there's a level of frustration should be seen by whomever with the county to be able to say, I understand things, things don't seem to be going in the right direction. Please come attend our next advisory board meeting to be able to bring that to us, is number one. Number two is for there to be a website readily available, probably no different than the Board of County Commissioners has out there, for anyone with any questions or concerns to be able to at least initially send an email, and number two, to be able to have a telephone number to at least start a conversation, for that conversation to then lead into, by all means, please come and address the advisory board at their next meeting and share your concerns, no different than any other citizen of Citrus County can go before the Board of County Commissioners at the public meetings. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right, so you are correct.
Okay.
Under the BOCC website, we have the link to the Technical Services Division, which used to be called Engineering, and under that you will find the Aviation. Aviation does have its page. Under the Aviation page, contact information is included for the county employee, so the engineering project manager, which will then become Todd. So the county employee is our first place where we start for any citizen that has a complaint, a concern, or wants information. And it's because, we manage the airports, or the airports fall under us. So you're gonna get your county employee first. Phone number and email will be for that engineering project manager that is over aviation. What we do not have is the board members. We do not provide your personal information and your personal phone numbers. So a citizen has no choice but to go to us. Mr. Rawls did eventually reach me, and I was the one that advised him to come express, his concerns here, especially since he did not feel he got good results from the county employee. So then he gets the board's buy-in, as well as your direction on what you would like the county employees to look into or see what we can do pertaining to the issue. But there will not be a direct link from citizens to the board. You have to go through a county employee.
And that's fine, I guess where I'm hearing a disconnect is that when a citizen calls in, and they speak to the operator for the county, and they don't know where the call needs to go. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
No, you're right.
That to me, that gives me heartburn, because we have a lot of people moving to the county. And the first thing that we want is to be user friendly, that whatever they need, that go-to person is gonna be that operator to be basically the air traffic controller of, you need to speak to Danae, here's her number, I'll be glad to forward you to it. That all needs to be transparent, so that the individual is feeling, number one, as though someone's hearing their voice, and number two, that is going to be able to find at least a starting point, which ultimately may lead to here, which is okay. But I agree, our emails, telephone, they don't need to be there, okay? We're just here as volunteers. So that is what I would like to find out clarity with, and to make that more transparent.
Okay. I don't know what numbers he started with, like if he called to the main number that comes downstairs.
Main number downstairs.
Okay.
I went through numerous numbers downstairs, and like I said, I actually went, and if you look at your website, it's for applying for a job, or being on the board. It's an application you filled out. That's where I got the number, probably got you.
Yes, sir, because my name and information
Sure.
is towards the bottom of the page on there
But
as well.
if a normal citizen won't look at applying for a job in order to get to this point. So,
Well, and I can understand frustration, because the last thing I wanna do is dial for dollars here, is to call all these telephone numbers. That just builds my frustration level up.
yes, it does.
And it doesn't need to be, so our operator, instantaneous, should be knowledgeable of, I don't know, but let me look through, you're talking about aviation, oh, here's the number right here, I need to get you today. And boom, it should pass off like,
I got one where they said they would call me back, because she didn't know where to go, and it took, I didn't receive a call back, so.
okay,
Again, it was frustrating, that's why I brought it up.
Sure.
And even just a contact, it would be nice. I didn't see one on the board, on your website.
And Mr. Rawls, I'm sorry that we are so hard to get a hold of. As has been said, we're simply volunteers. We come together once a month and start this. The folks that do the work, they do need to be accessible. The operator does need to be able to direct you promptly to the correct person, which in this case would be the Danae or Todd. Todd did reach out to me a couple of weeks ago to give me your number, to ask me to give you a call, and I apologize. I did give you a call, or at least I called the number that I was given. There was no voicemail, there was nothing, it simply rang and rang and rang. And even when I get a voicemail that's simply the electronic, you've reached this number, leave a message if you want to, I never leave a message, because I don't know with whom I'm speaking.
Okay.
So it's my bad for not having reached out to you multiple times in the hopes that you might pick up the phone at some point in time, and I apologize for that.
Okay. In this day and age, especially for me, there's so many people out there trying to get your money and stuff like that.
Yep.
I have an answer machine. If it doesn't speak, I don't pick up. So
Yep.
we're both in a quandary here. But I don't pick up unless you speak, because I don't want to talk to a salesman. I don't want to talk to whoever. You know.
I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you.
Okay, but you have to talk.
But I have to know, it's you I'm
Yeah.
speaking with. Otherwise,
I
I'm not gonna say
understand,
anything
but-
either.
But I'm just trying to relate to you. Seniors have, I feel like I'm not a senior, but seniors get to take it easy, and one way to get it is on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't talk, I don't pick up. And that's just one of those things to keep in mind.
With the exception of Keith on the end here, we're all right there with you, buddy.
And just to let you know, this is how I see things playing out from here on. At the next meeting, by all means, come if you want. Hopefully, we'll have some information back that explains why are we using the numbers that we're using to, tie the rents to, and why is that particular piece of equipment excluded? And then we'll have a chance to talk about it then in more detail. And then at least we'll understand why they're doing things the way they are. And then we can talk about what kind of things we might be able to do instead. Now, as an advisory board, we can't make any changes.
Oh, I know.
But we can, and we do talk to the Board of County Commissioners if we think that's what we need to go. Our first point of contact, though, will actually be with this gentleman here. And some things are done at their level, and some things have to be decided by the county commission. So we're gonna be, I wish I could say it's gonna be fixed next month. It ain't. It's gonna be a while, but we're gonna work on it.
I understand,
Yeah.
and I've got to understand my purposes here is that I belong to AOPA, and I have a legal service they have for me. And one of the things they suggested was going through make sure everybody understands that a failure of 70% in a year and a half of a device that you're renting, it's something's wrong with that.
Yeah.
And not being repaired, and I have the seals where they crumble like dust. And I expect the other door to fail too now, but again, and the other thing is, in the past, there have been very little communication with the people on the lease. My understanding, there were difficulties trying to get what type of hydraulic fluid to put in the rams and stuff like that. And the rams they use were called DHT, and if you go on the internet, you will not find anything on them, not one thing. And again, for me to be responsible for something I have no instructions to how to do something to, is it their intent that we spend $1,000 and have replaced ourselves? So, but the goal here is make them aware. I don't really expect y'all to do anything.
Oh, we're gonna look at it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with
Yeah.
bureaucracy and stuff like that. I'm just going through the steps before I can legally, bring something up here and say, this is not fair. Why you have a 70% failure rate and you're making people pay for it? Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Would you like me to address some of these issues that were brought up, or?
Oh, if you have some insight, I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
All right, the Rams, I did look at the lease. I've looked at it several times actually. And it is worded, it can be a little subjective, but it's worded as structure. The door, the hangar, the roof, those are structure components. If they're damaged, leaking, that is our responsibility to fix and replace that. The Rams itself is not considered a structure. It's a part of a structure, but I see the argument. It does open up a structure. So
are they specifically excluded in the lease? Like, we're just making a determination that we're not seeing that as structure? Because
you, depending on your point of view, it could be subjective.
because that door over there, if I were
Correct.
leasing a commercial space and the door fell off the hinges, the landlord would replace it, but would you replace the door closer if it broke?
That's a great question.
Under statute, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I'm a commercial real estate broker.
Okay, fantastic.
So I would make a legal argument
Sure.
again that hydraulic ram is part of the structure. Absolutely.
And you might be hearing me say this a few times today, but one of the things that we're doing is, we have consultants, doing a strategic financial study. And they're gonna be looking at several amount of things. Leases is gonna be one of them. The type of, the leases that we have, improvements, whether it's gonna be the CPI, this is good, rates and charges. These are all things that are gonna be completed, not tomorrow, not by next week.
Right.
Probably gonna be in 6 months, don't hold me to that. So this study is gonna show us everything, how we're running our airports, how can we make things better? And your concern is gonna be addressed in here. It should be. The information for the AEB, I know just recently, that web page was updated a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna address that particular, question that you had with, getting information, but, I did see a little bit of that. So it should be a little bit easier to navigate. It's not an overly complicated website, but there were some, loopholes and some errors, but I saw some of those get fixed, so at least that pertained to aviation. I think that's it. Is there anything else I can address on those subjects?
I did have another question,
Yeah.
sorry, on the CPI. I know
Yes.
that we had already kind of requested to know where we were, what region we were obtaining that information from. I'd like to know specifically where. Are we just Googling it? Is there a report that we're obtaining from somewhere? Because I have a lot to speak to that also, and I haven't brought it up before now because I used to be a leaseholder, and I feel like it would have been a conflict of interest. I've since given up that hangar space, and I don't feel like it's a conflict of interest anymore. And I can tell you, based on vast amounts of commercial leasing experience, Benderson. I don't know if you're familiar with Benderson. They're the ones that own all the properties around here, that Publix, the shopping centers, and everything.
Okay.
They're one of the highest price organizations to lease from out there. They lease for an average of $22 a square foot, and they still cap their CPI at about 4 or 5%. And so I was floored. So prior to being on this board, I had called Quincy when I got my first CPI, and I kind of said, hey, what's this? And I got the same answer. Well, it's CPI. And I said 8% or 9%, whatever the first one was a couple of years ago that I got. And I kind of argued that point with him, and then he had informed me that they got that number from Tampa, which flames were coming out my nostrils at that point.
Keith, what does that even mean? They got it from Tampa?
So they're calculating a consumer price index, and they're basing consumer price index goes up 9%. Your lease goes up 9%. Well, the CPI, to compare the CPI in Tampa to the CPI in Citrus County, is, we're going to say, short-sighted. It's apples and bananas. Okay. So we have a consumer price index. There you can drill down as much as you want, state, local. You can in Crystal River versus Inverness, and I was told that they used a CPI out of St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa area.
Is there not one generated up here?
So there are organizations you can obtain that from. That's why I was asking kind of what that. If we
Sure.
could find out what that source was.
What happened before me, I can't speak on, but I can
Understood.
definitely look into it.
Yeah,
to
if
help
you could
answer
at least
your
get us that information, because
Sure.
I agree that the price is not only, it's not just the increase. I think we're pricing ourselves out.
Yeah, I'm worried about that.
And to see those types of increases every single year, I've been doing this since 2007, commercial leasing, and I've never seen that before.
Okay.
And so I think that, and the consumer price index is going to continue to go up by those large percentages, especially a lot of people are moving to Florida. So yes, our local consumer price index is going to continue to rise 100%, but it's going to outpace our area here in areas like Tampa, Orlando, those bigger urban areas everybody's going up, but they're going to continue to outpace where we're at here. And in 3-4 years from now, if we keep on this trend, we're going to be paying $800-900 for hangar space, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so what happened before,
Of course.
but I can't speak on, but I can definitely look up to see
Sure.
that information. What I do know going forward is with our consultants, they are looking into this, and it's not just Tampa and St. Pete. They're looking at the counties that we surround, or that surround us. So that's gonna play in a part. I've also talked to other airport managers as well, as far south as Brooksville and Levy County, Marion, and we're all pretty much the same from what I can glean. I know Brooksville, like one of their land leases, they charge 22 cents a square foot. We charge 17. And there's other counties that charge 15. That's for a land lease. But so we know that we are comparable to other counties, but these consultants are going to be looking at a wider range of things. And when we get that report, we're really looking forward to see.
In the interim, if you need hyper-local CPI information, I can provide that to you.
Do you have a card?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. And again, comparing it to counties around us, you keeping in mind that Brooksville and Ocala, Inverness and Crystal River, we're not talking comparable airports.
Well, we're going to take, good care that, Cal is larger.
Right.
We're not going to compare them and, in Tampa. I'm sure that the consultants are going to look at those airports anyway to get an idea.
Of course.
But that's not the only ones they're going to be looking at. We have
Sure.
to be more realistic of this area.
In any case, if you would not mind, next month, bring us everything you have on how these leases are constructed and who came up with the idea that the garage door opener is not part of the garage.
No one came up with that.
Somebody did, because somebody has decided that the leaseholder should, and anyway, whatever
Yeah.
information you can find out. Don't want to get into semantics here.
Sure.
Obviously, we all know where we stand, because I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Well, I can provide the statute
Right.
if it helps. So
So whatever information you can get for us, the things that Mr. Rollis has brought up, I think everybody here agrees that it's just like, seriously? We had no idea. At least I had no idea, having never leased a hangar. George obviously knew, Keith may have known, and to the extent that we should look into that and at least have a voice as to what we feel as the
Absolutely.
AAB is reasonable, that would be, and the more information you can provide to us.
And
next
that's the
month,
key word I'd like to notice, is that a reasonable man brought up reasonable concerns. So it's my obligation to give him a reasonable answer as well. So
Perfect.
Great.
I'll look into that.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to add to that too, Todd, is the fact I was in banking for 45 years. Every loan document identifies how that rate is on that loan, and if it's based on an index, it's that index is identified on the document so that anyone with that loan can easily go to that site to
verify the
identify
information.
how they're being charged. And I think the hyperlink typically is the route to have in there so that whether it's Mr. Rawls or anyone else or George, they could just look at it, click it, look at it and say, these two don't make sense. I'm gonna call the Aviation Board to find out what's going on. And then we can provide them a response to that. But I feel that in what all those consultants are doing, that should be in there. And if you find that it's not, just give you that tidbit that
Okay.
that's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One last thing to say, sorry.
You want to come up to the podium, please?
Sorry. The CPI that you're talking about, when they raised 9%, I got a paper in December 16th, that they're gonna raise my rent, 9% for January. I talked to Quincy about, give us some notice, just raise rent, and the person has no notice at all. That's what happened. Last time it just come in, you raise the rent, and you get a notice. You can't argue anything like that because you got 2 weeks, either pay or move out. So, just all I'm asking for, at least 30 or 60 days notice that you're raising my rent. So, Thank you.
And I'm gonna add to that, in banks, if a financial institution is going to increase your rate, they are required by law to send an advanced notification, and it's not a day or a week or 2 weeks. It's ample notification so that there won't be a sticker shock whenever they get their next statement. And I agree with you on that, Mr.
State statute is 30 days. Most leases have
Yeah,
it
we haven't had 30
specified.
days.
Yeah, I know.
We don't get 30 days.
Okay.
State statute is 30 days, and most of the time, the lease will say within 60 days prior to the expiration of the lease. If
Exactly.
it doesn't say it, then it defaults to statute, and statute's 30.
Okay. All right. That's one.
Thank you.
Thank you for this. Appreciate it.
Anybody
Absolutely.
else from the public? James?
James Chen from Prestero Group. It's about the lease, the increase, the index, all that trouble to bring to the tenant. I myself is a victim of that, not to this airport, but I have another repair station in Ocala. That's exactly what is happening in that airport, the increases. When I first bought the company, my rent is about $1,200. Now it's $4,500. And so the board and the county should really pay attention to that, because that's the reason I'm moving out of the, one of the reasons I'm moving out of that. As far as Crystal River Airport goes, we have seen continuous improvement on the FBO, the front yard, the signage, the lighting, and I really appreciate it to you and the previous team to get the motion out of that. And I feel Todd is very action oriented. When we got the notice there where the flag need to be replaced, next day the flag is up, and I never get a response like that previously, so thank you.
Welcome.
We are bringing our sister company at the repair station, and it's a major deal to move a repair station, so I hope I only move to once. I don't have to keep moving. So I'm looking for a space, any place would be large enough to accommodate that. I'm still looking. If I cannot find anything soon and I have to move to Crystal River just to coexist with the current maintenance, which they will be fighting each other in a sense. So if anybody have any help with that, please let me know. I'll appreciate it. I think that's all I have. That again, we had proposed to the board and also proposed to the county that we would like to have the county rented the hangar, the administrative function to be transferred to the FBO, so we will be dealing with this instead of the county to do that. Wouldn't that look great if we did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a suggestion about the door. I think maybe the county should look into replacement of the type of the door with a different opening mechanism. Or to have some company do like a service contract. Because you have large enough quantity there, and if you have a vendor be able to service this as an ongoing basis, just like you would need somebody to take care of the grass runway or do the other service like access door is not working, we call Wesley. So that's the suggestion I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Chen? Thank you very much.
Sorry to come back up again, but
But
actually.
wait, there's
James-
more.
Sorry?
But wait, there's more.
Well, James actually echoed exactly what I was gonna say, is that all the concerns we heard today could be alleviated by something that's been on this board's agenda in the past, which is the FBO's taking over the hangars, which is gonna be studied in the study. The hangar door issue is not a new one, it has historically been the policy of the county to remove that part of that. And that was a major problem, and as an example, the board may remember that the Inverness FBO was built and it was known that there was a defect in the door and it was not corrected with either the door vendor or the building vendor. And at the time we signed the lease, the county wanted for us to repair the door. And we kind of said, well, this is an existing issue, it needs to be fixed. But it took quite a bit of stance to do that, and $200,000. So the door situation is not new. If the FBOs maintained the buildings, the maintenance would not be deferred or neglected as it is being today, because if the county's not doing it, the individual owners aren't doing that because it's a roulette system, they may not need to do it, but then the person who moves in next month might need to do it right off the bat, right? So regular servicing of each door on an annual basis should be conducted, but clearly it's not being conducted by the individuals or the county, and that's where if there was an agreement that was reached, it would make sense for the FBOs to do that on an annual basis, not only from a operational perspective of opening and closing the door, but honestly from a safety perspective, because if one of those pistons goes out, yes, there's redundancy, but you don't want to close it on someone or a hangar like that, an aircraft like that. With respect to CPI, yeah, when we moved here, we were shocked that we were bundled together with St. Petersburg rather than the realistic CPI at an actual zip code level or something like that. Because if you look at the two, there's a wide variance between the two, a huge variance. And unfortunately, because of that 9%, we did have to mark up all of our tenants by 9% as well. But on the flip side, the county also, just to refresh the board's memory, also has an obligation through the grant assurances program to rent the hangars at a so-called market rate. So if those adjustments were not made, then both airports may lose the potential future funding as available from FDOT and FAA, well, mainly FDOT on the hangar side. So that's a consideration as well. We're required to keep those hangar rents at market rate, essentially, to keep the grants. So, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but haven't we been talking about the FBOs taking over the hangars for some period of time? And Andy, I thought that the last time that we visited this, you folks were saying, yeah, we're not going to be able to make it on those terms, the terms that the county's proposing. I'm not sure that there's been any discussion or negotiation since the county's proposal on that.
There has been, and you were correct. So the math wouldn't work out. We would have to pay to take the hangars under the county's proposal, and that's because the county still has to maintain their insurance. The tenant still has to maintain their insurance, but if the FBOs take over, then also the FBOs have to further insure the hangars, and that is not an insignificant expense. So that kind of goes away. So there needs to be some math there. The most recent discussion, there was a little bit, like if you remember at the workshop, where they said, let's see what the study comes back with, is essentially that's the update. To see if there's economies of scale there. Because in terms of reaching us, well, guess what? We're open right now, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So someone can always walk into our facility and say, hey, help me with this. And for our tenants that we do have, if they have issues with their doors, one of our A&P mechanics gets right over there and fixes the door or orders parts or whatever for the hangars that we are responsible for, subleasing.
Yep.
So I think the main thing is to wait for the study to come back and then for some analysis to come down. But I think the commissioners agree that it would be better for the FBOs to operate. The FBOs agree, and I think the tenants agree, except that the math has to work out for all parties involved somehow. Because we don't want to raise the rates of the hangars, but the county doesn't want to get less money, and we don't want to pay to take over them. So there has to be a math that works somehow.
I believe it would have put you roughly like a $14,000 deficit. It would have cost you, if we worked the math out last time, it was like, it would have cost you $14,000 to do it in its current form, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in particular, if we picked up the maintenance costs,
Right.
which, you're looking at, I think we did get a quote of $500 per unit per year of annual maintenance to be done on that from a door vendor who does just that.
Right.
Because previously we had to do that on our doors as well. One other thing that Shalana just reminded me of, and we'll talk about it later, but we didn't get vetoed for the $9 million for the business park. That's super exciting. We'll talk about that. But so to get that $9 million is super exciting for the business park.
Thank you very much. Any other new business, any other comments from the public? Seeing none, new business. Speaking of which, business park.
Okay. So we have groundbreaking for Business Park. That's gonna be on August 1st. There's gonna be a more formal invitation that's gonna be coming out shortly. But that'll be pretty much in front of where the business park is gonna be. The exact location where we're gonna stand is to be determined, but we'll have some poster boards up and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What time was it gonna be?
Right now, the tentative time is 8:30 in the morning. But like I said, the official invitation hasn't been out yet, so.
Yeah. That's subject to some fluctuation, I assume.
Correct.
Just adding it to my calendar, that's why I was asking.
It would be good if somebody from the board could be there. I unfortunately am out of town that day.
I'll absolutely be there.
Great,
I'll be there too, yeah.
wonderful. What else?
For new business, that's it.
Okay, old business?
The Crystal Rivers 927 GPS approaches. I'd like to incorporate also the runway extension and wetland removal study. We do have a work authorization for EA with public outreach. Speaking with another consultants about that. I have a meeting with them next week. So we'll see. I know that public outreach can be rather lengthy, especially for that surrounding area. There's more to follow with that. So I know I'm kind of double dipping into project status, but some of this kind of mingles a little bit.
I've got a question, and I guess I ask it at every meeting, but the 927 approach issue has been there for almost 3 years now. And I gather that's probably the safest approach to the airport. It's got the lowest minimums, and it also is over a very unpopulated area.
The runway 9.
Yeah, runway 9.
Runway 9.
And I keep hearing that there must be an impasse there someplace, but I don't know that anybody is seriously thinking about fixing it. And so, like I say, it's been 3 years. It started when we displaced the threshold 200 feet because of the widening of 19, and that's over 3 years ago. And so I don't see any progress, and I don't know who feels responsible for pushing a bit.
Well, we are working with the FAA on that, and I should be hearing something shortly. If I might even have something on my email now, but I can definitely look into that and just keep poking the bear and get more information. But we know how fast the FAA can move sometimes, so
Yeah,
I'd like to get back to you on that if I could.
But 3 years is a little bit
Agreed.
unreasonable. Yeah.
Also, Crystal River runway markings and displaced threshold. Kind of the same answer. Working with FAA, but I don't have any updates at this time. But I will be looking more into that.
What exactly are we looking for the markings displaced threshold for the grass runway? I thought that we were done with
I
that.
did.
I believe you're right, but I just haven't touched on it in a minute, so I'll get back with you on that.
Okay, because we discussed that extensively, and new markings for sideline
Yes.
markings and for threshold were installed months ago. And I'm surprised to see this still on our agenda.
And there was a question about what if somebody hits one of those markers, and I believe the county folks came out and notched them, so you just knock them over.
Okay.
And
Kind of like
so-
a hurdle.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think there was a small issue, but I believe it's been taken care of.
Okay. I'll look into that. Crystal River and the Inverness FBO maintenance improvements for old business. From my understanding, we're waiting for next year. We do have your wish list. and we're working towards that. But nothing really to note at this time.
Okay.
Crystal River, Godfrey Lane, power line ball markers. I've talked with a gentleman with Duke, and we do have a service agreement, and that's being pushed forward right now. We're gonna get a handful of ball markers. I think it only needs like 3, but I'm gonna talk with the service gentleman and make sure we get the correct amount and the size, of course. I was gonna pick orange unless anybody, okay, I was gonna match with everything else, so. But that's in process.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
That this is actually expected to go on the, I believe, 2nd August agenda for the board approval on the agreement, and then after the board approval, we'll be able to proceed, granted they approve it, with purchasing the ball markers and having it.
Okay.
Next is the financial analysis, which we've been talking about already.
And that's the 6-month consultant study.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Fire station on INF, there's nothing new to really report on that. It's an idea. As far as I know, the chief likes it, and of course, we'd all like to see that happen. I think it'd be a great location and more to follow.
Okay. Let's the board's concurrence, let's take that off the agenda for now until and unless you wind up with something to talk about at a later date. So we don't keep saying nothing new,
Is
nothing
that
new.
the fire station?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have in here too, airport equipment repair and replacement schedule. It's my understanding, my plan, what I'd like to do, can't say it's gonna be tomorrow, but I'd like to develop some type of a routine maintenance schedule. That's what I'm used to, coming from a maintenance background. I'm not a big fan on just waiting for something to break. I understand that to a financial part, if you only have so much money and trying to stretch it out, but there's a double-edged sword to that, to where if you keep up with your maintenance, then you won't have the catastrophes that can come at a surprise. So bear with me when it comes to that, but I'm gonna be looking into that personally.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, hangars, as far as we're moving on to hangars. As far as I know, this is accurate. INF is 16 T hangars, 1 vacancy. Crystal River has 20 T hangars, 0, and then 2 box hangars at 0. Moving on to BOCC, Crystal River one-way extension, EA scope of work has been approved. Moving on to project status reports. The runway extension and the wetland removal wildlife study. This is the work authorization for the EA with public outreach. That's what I was talking about earlier. And I do have a meeting next week with my consultants about that.
Good.
Looking forward to it. Crystal River's fuel tank replacement. Design is still underway. I should be receiving those designs, plans by the 21st was my last email. Just got to keep following up and make sure they deliver. So, Inverness airspace study obstruction removal. The last thing I heard, which was recent, FAA doesn't object to any of the obstructions that were removed. So that's a good report. Just following up with that. And besides that, nothing new to note. Parking lot. Oh, he left. Parking lot is pretty much done. Striping and wheel stops is all we have left. And that is scheduled, should be done by next week on the 19th. Pending weather, of course. Yeah. So I'll just reiterate, Andy, the parking lot is basically done. We're just waiting on the striping and the wheel stops. That's gonna be on the 19th, should be. Hopefully we'll see some activity next week, but when that's done, then have people park on there, should be safe.
There's a cure period for the strike.
It depends on the what they use. Was it thermoplastic and something else? I can't remember. But I'm not 100% sure which product they're gonna use first, but it could be, yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you know if there's gonna be a longer cure time or anything like that.
Yeah, we won't work on it until we
Yeah.
know for sure. Is there, are there gonna be any core samples taken?
My understanding, that was done through the process,
Okay.
yeah.
Sometimes they do it only with the substrate, and sometimes they do it with the actual as well. So I'm not sure what the requirement.
I can ask the company we used and make sure, but I'm pretty sure I remember seeing this stuff.
Yeah, and last time we did the core sample at Inverness, we
Mhm.
weren't here, but we did the north end taxiway, and they had to redo most of the asphalt.
I heard,
The mix did not meet the standard.
okay.
So far, I have not seen that, but no vehicles have been driving on that, so we don't have any proof.
Well, my personal experience with the people that have been out there have been doing a good job,
I would,
so.
and I did convey to Quincy, just, I'm sure he told you, that the block selected for that little gate is different than every other lock. Did that get to you?
No, it didn't.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yeah, I should be up at the podium.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, throughout both airports, there's a number of gates to allow controlled access in and out of the airports. And as a result of the parking lot effort, the fence line had to be moved to allow for the parking lot. As part of that, the gate needed to be moved. Every gate at the Inverness Airport has a locking mechanism that locks from both sides, meaning you have to have a code to get in or get out. That's because it's a chain link fence. The lock that was installed is unlocked from the inside, so you can reach your hand through the chain link fence and unlock the gate.
Okay,
from
yeah,
the
that
outside.
was addressed. It was my understanding that lock was fixed and replaced, so there should be a keypad on each side.
Okay, that could have happened. I honestly haven't followed up. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay,
Because
I will.
The team who was installing it said, "Well, this isn't the right lock, but this is what."
When
we're
I
told."
found out, I just, I've seen pictures of this where people put a lock in and it's just,
Yeah, you could
that
literally just.
provides no security.
No
Yeah,
security.
when they were installing that, we pretty much addressed the problem right then and there. I was pretty sure they fixed it, but they could be waiting for a part.
They may or may not have, but I didn't follow up, so I don't know.
I
But
will.
He pointed that out, and I'm like, that is interesting. And then the other thing he pointed out, and this isn't as big of a deal, but every other pedestrian gate at the Inverness Airport anyways also has a self-closing spring mechanism.
Yep.
And that gate is not. I think it's less important than
Oh,
the other one, but he pointed that out as well.
yeah, okay, good, thank you. Next is the business park. Right now, we're moving gopher tortoises, and that is, so far, it's moving along. Sometimes I feel like they pick out a few, and then they find a few more burrows. And I don't know if you know, but those turtles can dig. So that is ongoing. I'm hoping that it's gonna be finished by tomorrow, but weather has been a problem. It might be done by Monday or Tuesday. But anyway, when that does get done, then we have our excavating team that's gonna be going in there and start getting ready to
Break ground?
break ground. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and then the corporate hangar. Ongoing design with our consultants. It's moving forward. And I believe,
Corporate hangar, what do you, sorry. Is it the grant for the WTC hangar, or is this a separate program?
there's a company that is, there's a grant for helping build a believe it's gonna be a 10,000 square foot hangar, but our consultants are involved with designing, and I don't really have much more to say on that, cause I don't have anything else that's,
But that's the WTC grant, I mean, that's the grant the counties have the grant that I originally wrote for to house the WTC program, or is this a separate corporate?
can you, what's WTC again?
With Wakushi Technical College,
No,
okay.
No.
So this is a separate.
Yes, it
corporate
is.
hangar.
Is this hangar being built for somebody in particular, or just in the hopes that somebody will rent it after it's
Yes.
built?
yes.
The second or the first?
Livewire.
Okay.
So on that, there's a little bit of history to that, you know, so in the master plan, there was, since we arrived here in 2018, a plan to build a second row of T hangars at the Inverness Airport that was scheduled for 2025. And we had been promised by the previous county administrator and the prior board that that would happen in 2025, so that we have additional occupants, space for additional tenants. That was changed without bringing this matter to the board, or, you know, without consulting us, to, instead of the T hangar, to build a hangar for one corporate entity who does not employ anyone in the county, and, you know, without seeking this board's approval or without changing the master plan so far. So we do want this company at the Inverness Airport. I have an objection with changing the master plan from, and the funding in the CIP from the row of T hangars to the box hangars unilaterally, with, you know, without seeking this board's input, in my opinion. You know, particularly since it was committed to us that those hangars would be made available over the years, time and time again by previous administration and previous boards, previous BOCC boards. So I'd like to voice my protest for that, but I guess they're kind of moving forward with that.
There are other hangars being built.
Is the row of
Box
T
hangars.
still intended to go forward in 2025?
I'll have to get back with you on that.
Okay. I know they've rearranged the funds privately from the T hangars to the box. So Crystal River got the additional set of T hangars last year, the year before. And we've been waiting 5 years for ours, and then poof, disappeared, for the benefit of one entity that doesn't have a presence in the county.
At what point was that decision made and who made that? Was that the BOCC that decided that?
It was not, no.
I'll have to get back with you on that.
If you would, please,
Sure.
it'd be good to know that.
What is the entity that's gonna be leasing this hangar we're building for them?
So they're a helicopter company that operates nationwide. They specialize in tree trimming near high-test power lines. So very specialty company that pays very well. It's a great company, actually, and we'd love to have them here. Presently, they operate out of, I believe, North South Carolina, somewhere in that region, and they do employ around 10 to 20 people, is my understanding, including pilots, mechanics, and they also have a fabrication division. So by all means, that type of business is very welcome at Citrus County and at the Inverness Airport. The objection I have is that for 5 years since we've been here, we've been, you know, planning on an additional row of T hangars, and now that's been changed without, you know, unilaterally, without this board's approval, or without the board of kind of commissioners' approval as well. So really neat company, actually. Two other things that I noticed earlier, I'm not sure, not really the appropriate time, but kind of got dropped from last time. Todd, is the security meeting. I'm not sure if we're moving forward with that. If you recall, we had the call-in gentleman from the FAA last time who said he'd come and train our sheriff's division.
Oh, the special agent,
Correct.
Charles, forgive me, I can't remember his
Charles
last
Simpson.
name. Yeah. I do have a more detailed report. I just didn't want to, I guess, send it out, but I do have a more detailed report about Mr. Frazier and his, I guess, the history. So I can share that if you're interested. No problem with that. I can get in touch with Charles again and see what's going on. The last update I got with him was they pinged his aircraft somewhere in Ohio, doing whatever. I don't know. I don't know this man. I've never met him. I've only hearing things and from what, so I don't want to speculate, but did I answer your question?
Well, he was going to come to.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. I haven't heard much more on that, but I can follow through and see what, if he has a plan indeed to come out here. But it sounds like if about this gentleman, that you have to catch him in the act. That's what it's sounding like. And I know that he was, and was let go, so.
George, last month, we talked about putting together,
Yeah.
convening the county security team. Where do we stand with that? Have you heard anything?
I haven't done anything with it. I think we're supposed to do that like once a year or something.
Yeah, so just to recap, the Inverness Airport currently has a 5,000-foot long runway, and any airport that has a 5,000-foot long runway or longer has to have a security plan. And as part of that, there is a security council or something like that outlined in the plan, which consists of me and now you, and then also the person in charge at the sheriff's level, and then also you, George. And the intent was to have Special Agent Simpson come to meet with that team in addition to the relevant people at the sheriff's office so that he could train the sheriff's office on what they should do, how they should do airport security, and it's complimentary, doesn't cost the county anything like that. And so he was very anxious to come out so that he could train the sheriffs on the deputies on what to do, because he can't be there all the time.
So it sounds like what we need to do is we need to bring that security committee together, get him down here, because we gotta have the sheriff's department on board with receiving this training and then actually using it,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah, and that's the part that I've voiced difficulty with this, getting the sheriff's deputies to cooperate has been challenging.
okay.
So that's.
So, okay, yeah.
It's not an election year.
More to follow.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out where we are in this process.
Sure.
The next, he wants to come down, he needs to be invited down, is,
Yep.
hold you to
I'll be
invite
inviting him down. I'll be giving him an email and see what his availability is.
Okay, perfect, okay, cool.
And at the same time, we want to make sure that our illustrious sheriff has somebody available to send out to that meeting as well.
Yeah, I do have a point of contact, and they'll be informed as well.
If you have any difficult with that, please let me know.
Okay,
I can help.
all right. Says send the bulldog on him, huh?
Two other things that, one that dropped off, the Ver Tower, have you heard back from them on if they're going to take us up on the offer?
Yes, both airports.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. And then, one thing I'd like to see added to the agenda for next time is, and this may not be, I don't know, it's a question I don't know if should go here, is, I voiced to our administrator that we would like to have food trucks at the airport, because at this point in time, you may know that there's a facility in our building that was designed to be a restaurant, but we don't have enough space, so that's not gonna be opened as a restaurant, at least right now. But in lieu of that, we'd like to host food trucks at the airport. And it turns out that because of current zoning, that would be difficult. However, it was committed that we get that changed at the county level. And I'm not sure if anyone's leading the charge on that to do that.
I will look into it.
Okay. Otherwise, of course, we could just have them there, which we have had food trucks there multiple times without the zoning, but not on a permanent basis, obviously, which is what we're looking to kind of do. Not on a permanent basis. What we kind of said was, the one model airport is the Arcadia Airport, for example. They won General Aviation Airport of the Year 2 years ago or so. And one of the things they did is they have Taco Tuesdays. So every Tuesday they have a taco truck and people fly in, and it's an excellent turnout. What that does, the reason they do that is because people fly in And now that we have Vert Tower, those traffic landings and takeoffs are
Yeah.
counted, and that goes towards getting us additional funding from the FAA. So the traffic helps us get more funding, and the tacos lure the people here. In our case, it probably wouldn't be tacos, and it'd probably be on a Monday, but we wanna make sure we're zoned appropriately for that.
Monday moon pies.
I have a question about that one. Is it something you're wanting to do on a schedule or to be able to have all the time? Or what's the frequency for this?
So, in discussing it with Steve and the team upstairs, we want the ability for them to be there full-time.
Okay.
If that were to happen, we don't have a business need for that right this instance,
Okay,
because the food trucks wouldn't wanna be there, there's not enough business there.
right.
But if we can get to that point, we don't want the zoning to be,
What was, who explained, I don't understand the zoning issue, because basically those food vendors can park anywhere for up to a period of 2 weeks that they want to. With commercial, residential, it really doesn't matter.
Well, are you saying they're on the airport or on
On
the
the
road?
on the airport. I'm not a zoning
That's where-
expert, and
Neither am I.
that's
So
what,
I can,
the county administrator said.
Maybe the issue is getting access to the secure area at the airport.
Yeah.
Well, and it can be in our parking lot, which is out of the secure area, actually.
Good point.
So that's not.
That's what I was thinking, in the parking lot, I just I don't see what could potentially be, I mean, if Steve said it is, he's a knowledgeable guy, I know he does, but if you send him an email,
Yeah,
that has been the most effective way to get stuff done, cause he can forward that to the right person.
oh yeah,
I've had a lot of luck with Steve in that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just to bring to this board's attention, just because it's, if we get there, then we wanna start hosting food trucks on Mondays probably. But we did the EAA flying without anything like that, but that wasn't really for sale, because that was a donation, and all, so that's a whole other thing.
A question for you, Andy, on that is that with your pilot training, would there be a need for, not all day, but, for certain hours of the day to have those food trucks there for their benefit?
For our own purposes, I mean, yes, if you swing by the airport at any given time, and particularly when there's a cadet change, you'll see how many cars we have now. Yes, except that if you recall, the cadets are broke because they just paid for all their pilot training and they don't have a job yet. So they tend to be pretty frugal, but they do eat out and things like
Okay.
that. So that's why we're trying to get Mondays going.
Right.
Is because it's low risk for the vendor, because they wouldn't normally be somewhere anyways on a Monday. And it doesn't matter to us what day of the week it is, because we're 7 days a week.
Okay.
But the
But for the
WTC
flying,
culinary program would probably be willing to help out with that too.
That may be something worth looking into that we have not.
Yeah,
So, no, absolutely.
they've done similar things in the past,
Yeah,
is why I'm suggesting it.
no, that would be neat. We haven't looked into that, and that's something that we should do, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Anything else from anybody? We have no presentations. Really nothing to communicate to the board at this time, do we? As far as our next meeting, that would be scheduled for August 10th. I will be out of town August 10th.
You say that.
Sorry?
You said that before.
Yes, I have said that before. Is there any interest in moving that month's meeting to earlier in the week? Otherwise, you'll have to carry on without me.
My recollection is if you wanted to move, that creates some problems with where to have the meeting.
potentially, I don't know. But what I can do is ask and find out.
I know your coffee and donuts would be sorely missed, and I guarantee you I will not bring any.
It's a big shoes to fill.
But yeah, the,
And if you guys are okay without me, that's fine. I just want to make sure you know.
Well, what date were you thinking about hiking?
Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of that week.
And I'm just saying that from the standpoint for staff to be able to look at the calendars and what's available, not available, to be able to kind of pinpoint another available date for the meeting, because it had to be advertised.
In general, do we have a consensus as to a preference?
Let's just move it back a day, Wednesday.
Sorry?
Just move it back one day. I'll move it forward one day. Does that fit What's your availability?
I'm available all afternoon, the afternoon of each of those days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It would make no difference to me.
So just move it back to Wednesday.
Can, Todd, can you and Danae, would you mind looking to see if A, the two of you are available, and B, if the room is available?
Sure.
Is everybody good with that? Well,
What about just checking for Tuesday and Wednesday, just to?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
If they look and say
We will.
Wednesday's not available, but Tuesday is, then
Absolutely. And any of those days, see what the availability there is, shoot us all an email, and we can all say yay or nay.
And just, I won't be available any of those days, so as long as everybody else is available, and you have a quorum, you're good. So just
Well,
make
you'll have to
sure you're
decide
gonna,
whether you'd like
Is
donuts
that
or the
Monday,
beer.
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday also?
I'm on 5 boards, and they're all the same week. That's all I've been doing all week is board meetings,
Okay,
so
so the 10th you wouldn't be-
it does not matter. This the only time I did not have a board meeting this week was this morning.
Okay.
Okay.
Forgive me, we have one more thing to discuss. Mark was kind enough to put together a presentation on the FDOT economic impact for Florida airports. You had a Zoom discussion? Do you
Yeah,
wanna
I
walk
talked
us
with
through that?
the person who ran it, Taylor Farosky from Kimberly Horn, excuse me. And then with Steve Lander and Zach, Steve Lander is the economist that did all the corrections in the numbers. And the reason I did it is this statewide summary came up with 500, over 500 people for Inverness and and 400 for Crystal River. And it didn't make sense. Well, what they did is they took everybody that was either a full-time employee, a part-time employee, a contract employee that even did one day working for them, and they counted them as an individual. Then they took the salaries from the contracts and stuff and built that up. Then turned around and said, okay, and gave an output of 1.6, basically 1.6 for their salaries and their output of total income from for the workers. Then they turned around and said, okay, for those employees, how many employees or how many people would have worked on the outside for that many people? And they came up with a number of 206 for Crystal River, and about another $15 million in output. Then, this is the one that got me, was they turned around and said, okay, for visitors, they took the average of 5 general aviation airports throughout the state, came up with a number, and then figured, well, we're going to have something to measure it against. So they took aircraft that were coming from out of state that landed here, and then they multiplied that times their now on my economic output for Inverness, I had 34. It was supposed to be 50. It's a typo, but they came out, and quite honestly, I think it was they overestimated everybody's economic input and output, because 5 years ago it was 8 and 9 billion million here for the 2 airports. Orlando was 9 million or $9 billion was their total output 5 years ago. This year it's over 45 billion, and they had less than 100,000 people 5 years ago. They got over 300,000 now. Is that what they're calling? So, yeah, I think they overestimated, but they also are looking at it for budgetaries for the state and what they could get for DOT. So they admit they may have overestimated, but this helps their arguments with the legislature for funding. So I'm not going to say anything else. But that's basically how they did it. And they used different multipliers, and the reason there's differences between Inverness and Crystal River is they take a percentage and they put the towns and the airports and what's around the airports into different categories. And Crystal River was in one category, Inverness was in a different category. So when they did the multipliers, that added even more people.
Yeah.
So and more output. So that's why there's such a difference, even though the people are not that much different. It's just a mess. But it works out for their budget.
Almost sounds like they choose a methodology based on the results they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
Well, thanks, Mark. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Kind of how things work in engineering.
Yeah, right. Anybody else have anything? That being said, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Moved by
Second.
Carl, second by Mark. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.